Let's open the meeting of the Du Bois County Council. Start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have a quorum tonight, so to start out, we had a special meeting tonight of Community Corrections and additional appropriations. So, Wyatt, do you want to introduce yourself and our way for the public?
Yeah, I'm Wyatt Madden, Director of Community Corrections here in Du Bois County. I'm here today to talk about funding for an additional officer for Community Corrections.
So, the appropriations that we were given, it's just, it's really for personal services.
The personal services, the correctional officer would be $8,136.30, with the benefits being $1,533.70. That's for FICA and PERF. There is no health insurance because if this person starts tomorrow, they wouldn't qualify for health insurance until January. The officer would could begin tomorrow. Holiday pay is included and will be paid as per the handbook.
So any discussion here? Here? I think this is something we've been talking about. It's been approved. The commissioners approved it. So I'll entertain a motion to approve that it will be $1,970.
$9,670.
So moved.
I'll second it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the other thing I think we want.
I need a salary ordinance.
So that's
It would be paid $1,627.27 bi-weekly. Like I said, this will be until the end of the year. The last pay would probably be encumbered across until we can get to January, because the last pay for December is in January. So we'll encumber this line item to help this position.
so I'll entertain a motion for that bi-weekly salary of $1,627.27.
I'll make that motion.
Becky has made a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Sonia is second. So all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So I don't know if that's really all we were going to cover. Do we want to discuss, this morning at the commissioners meeting, they approved hiring one additional officer besides the one we just talked about.
Yeah.
And I think that would be under the same terms and salary.
That's correct.
And that would be, again, till the end of the year. And then we have to go back in January and ask for an additional appropriation or budget difference for next year.
Yes.
For both of these officers. So I didn't know, the discussion this morning was that we would try to do this. I mean, there's a lot of discussion going on between 3 officers and 4 officers and the cashing in of that CD that would be cashed in. But anyway, they only approved one additional officer. So what we want to do here is, I kind of indicated, I think Becky was there too this morning, that we kind of indicated we would try to push this through as fast as we could. It has to be advertised. So what that would require is another meeting similar to this. It would be a special meeting that we probably only do this. So, and if our discussion, if I understood it right, Sandy, you would advertise on the 10th, that it would be in the paper on the 10th?
If I send it to the press on the 10th, they will have it in the paper on the 16th.
Okay,
And we could meet the 28th.
so that would be a Monday, the same
So it'll be 3 weeks from today.
4:30.
You said the 28th.
If you'd have another special meeting on the 28th. I've already advertised last
20th.
week for the 21st meeting, so we missed that deadline. It had to be to the press last week on the 3rd.
I can do the 28th, I have a doctor's appointment.
I think we talked about this, and that's why we kind of moved that, our regular meeting, I'll call it on the 21st. So, I mean, if it only takes technically, I mean, you can express your concern about it tonight also, because we're gonna make a handbook to move forward here.
I'm just hearing about this actually, new position, so I wasn't able to watch the meeting or anything like that this morning.
Okay,
So I didn't know that until just getting here, so that was discussed.
I mean, I think Wyatt, we were all out at Wyatt has given us, we've all went out there and spent time with Wyatt and Chuck and Rob, on the concerns they have with safety, and you can go through it. But that's kind of the reason I think everybody here is on board with it, more, because we were,
Yeah, personally, can I?
Yeah.
do you mind, President, please? Okay, so I think the request was for 4.
Yeah.
Megan had written into the grant 4 new corrections officers into the grant, but they were all denied because they're not technically directly involved in rehabilitation. So the state doesn't recognize that, and they were all shoved out of the grant. And there was no contingency for having any of those 4 written into the budget anywhere else other than in that grant. So now they're left with this position of being really short-staffed, like
Right.
extraordinarily short-staffed, especially now because you're even 2 officers down on what's actually budgeted
Mhm.
for this year. I don't know who all went out, but I know
I mean, we all, I think most
most of us went out and met with Wyatt and Rob and Emily. I don't know who else, anybody else met with. But personally, I was a little shocked that the commissioners only approved 1. Really troubled by that. I was really hoping that they would do 2. So now I'm really glad that instead of this one, that there's a second one, so that there's somebody to put on, 1 on each shift at least. So I'm in full support of it.
I mean, you got any other questions, Doug? I mean, that's kind of the synopsis of it. And that's why it kind of, it came up this morning, they were all at the meeting this morning with the commissioners, and, we were trying to fast forward this thing as fast as we can, and that's the reason we're discussing it.
So how are we paying for this new one that we're today? How's that funding gonna be? Is that still project income and some of that, or?
It would still come out of this CD,
It'd still be
So the
project
board-
income then.
but go ahead.
The board met last week and made the request for the council or for the commissioners to approve 4 officers, and we would pay a chunk out of the CD. Since only 2 positions were approved, I don't know what the board wants to do as far as cashing in that CD.
I think it was brought up in the meeting this morning that we as the council we have control of that money.
Okay.
If we need the money, we're gonna cash it in.
Mhm.
So if it means not having an officer or cashing that in, I would suggest we cash it in.
Okay.
So I don't know if, how the rest of the council feels, but that's the way I would see it. It's helping you, and in January, we'll have to decide how we're gonna do this, how we're gonna fund these positions.
Mhm.
So, does that answer your question? So put it up.
Okay, well, so we're saying right now we don't know? Is it project income, or did I miss the answer here? Is it project income and the CD, and that's gonna fund the rest of the year?
Well, the additional appropriation you guys just approved was out of project income.
Okay.
And if they don't have enough
Right.
fluid cash, we're gonna cash that CD to make it work, or they can't do it.
And that's next.
None of
year.
their people are gonna get paid if they don't have enough fluid cash.
Right, okay.
So,
And so this next one, you guys tell me right now where you want me to advertise it from, and we'll do that for the rest of this calendar year. But then next January, we're gonna have this same discussion, where are we gonna continue these 2 people, or they won't continue? Because there's no budget for next year for these two positions.
It'll be a little less than what this amount is, because it's gonna be.
It'll be 3 weeks
3
shorter,
weeks.
because this was designed to hire somebody tomorrow. But they won't get the holiday pay for tomorrow because they have to work today to get the holiday, so there's no holiday pay for tomorrow.
So it'll be about 9,000, a little less.
It'll be less. It'll be a paycheck and a half less. So you've got the salary ordinance, 16, 18, I mean,
1627.
24, it'll be that much less. Because it won't be able to start until the 29th if you have a meeting on the 28th and pass it.
It was my hope that we were gonna be talking about this for 2 officers and not just 1.
Do you got somebody in mind, or you have,
I've already opened the application process and have applications. You know, ideally, the commissioners would have approved 3 or 4 positions to fully staff us, and then we could have worked on funding with the council. I mean, that's the
But they
ideal
didn't.
situation, right? So I feel like we're just gonna keep on coming back for these special meetings until, I mean, it gets approved.
We're here tonight to
Talk
fund this
about the one.
additional officer that was approved this morning. So
Right.
that's where we're at. So if there's any, anybody got any other questions or concerns to Wyatt, or otherwise, I'll look for a motion to fund this out of project income.
Is it a consensus to advertise?
Yes.
Be a consensus.
Right, so all in favor? Hands up. Like we're unanimous, so about, it looks like then we have our meeting on the 28th. We'll set a meeting and then you can hire the next day.
Okay.
I mean, that's as quick as we can do it,
That's fine. That's great.
So appreciate everybody coming in. I don't know if this is, but that's, do you have any other? That's all we had tonight.
I mean, other than the, just to talk about, possibly in the future, different funding sources, I guess, for officers, and talking about, the county paying for insurance and having funds available to pay for the officers ourselves. I don't know if that's a different discussion for a different time.
Well, from what I can see, the grants are set, I just signed off your grant the other day, so I mean, they're in place. So this is almost a discussion for 24.
Right.
when you
which is-
rewrite
I mean,
the grant-
discussion needs to be now.
Right, you can have
Because
those
the grant
conversations,
process.
but it's something that will happen in 24's grant.
Right. So when we start writing the grant this year,
Right.
we can have an answer on where the funding's gonna come from.
Well, okay, so the grant, now, from what I could tell from our budget forms, the insurance portion, if that's, on the table to talk about, that's paid out of the grant right now. So if we were to take that out and you wouldn't be able to supplant those funds and pay officers out of those monies because, that's, the grantor lines out what you can spend that money on or not. So I mean, that really wouldn't be.
And if the
an
grant
option.
has already denied you for, are they gonna give you, just because you take insurance out, are they gonna give it to you?
Right, we wouldn't want to risk lowering the amount that they're going to give you because it's pretty, it seems pretty apparent that they're not going to fund officers through the grant. So, I mean,
I mean, they do fund our current officers.
but no more. You know what I mean? Like if they continually, I mean, Megan's put them in there.
Because
How
that's
many
the
years
second
now?
year of that.
2 times.
At least 2.
We can reword these, it wouldn't be officers, it could be a different form of word as a real rehab person in the building. As long as we word it as someone that's doing other things for that other program, they might accept it too.
Right, but I mean, I don't want to get in trouble if we get audited for, if that person's doing completely different duties.
See, all the officers are gonna be formatted in that new program too, so it's not just, we have to take care of those people also in the building. So, I mean, I don't understand why it's so different. Why they won't fund the officers in that grant, where we're gonna be mainly involved with those participants in there, males and females, when we go back. So I don't understand why they don't do that.
Well,
That's a
and we do have to watch
$250,000 question.
supplanting. We don't wanna, supplanting is when you have money and then you take that money and put it in the grant, for the grant to pay for it, when you're already paying for it, to
Okay,
pay for
fine.
fund.
So it's not supplanting.
Well, it could, I mean, could be, you don't know.
And we wouldn't be.
We just have to
asking
watch
for
that
any
we don't
additional money.
supplant.
We wouldn't be asking for any additional money like the previous grants. The same funds would be, I mean, the same amount would still be used. I mean, these are questions that need to be answered and, you know. I
So do you have a
probably-
contact, the grantor?
Yeah.
You,
Yeah.
can you talk
I-
to them
yeah.
and just see
Mhm.
how it needs to be done?
Yeah.
Because evidently after being denied 2 years, we still didn't get it right the second time, so.
Yeah, I think we have to start with the grantor.
Like, how else could it be worded in order to get them to cover? What do we need to do to get you to cover 2 officers or 4? Because they won't give you the raises. You know, they won't increase what they're willing to pay for the raises, so that's coming out of project income. If they would boost that, that would help, you know, that would free up some project income funds.
Yeah, I've already asked that and, yeah, no additional funding is gonna come this year as far as the 2024 budget for officers.
So are we in a 2-year grant cycle? Is this a first year or a second year, or is this a year-to-year
It's a
grant?
year-to-year grant.
Okay, because sometimes they do a 2-year and they say the first year, they won't change the second year. And I didn't know if that is the same with yours.
It's a year-to-year.
So I was looking through the project income and I'm like, okay, what can we move out? You know, but I'm like, okay, insurance is over in the grant, you know, all the, like, the higher ticket things, like the contracted services and all that, that's all over in the grant. So we can't just take that and pay officers with those funds. Because we have to use the grant funds as they're,
First,
you know, as they're listed or as
Right.
they're approved.
As they're budgeted, the grantor budgets it.
Right. So our hands are kind of tied on those, what we can take and what we can't take out.
I think you know, when I was out there, I mean, speaking with you, you had said that, you know, who's gonna be doing the grant writing in the future? I mean, you're saying that the 2023 budget is, you know, those grants are already issued.
Yeah.
So,
starting in January.
okay.
So starting, you know, sometime mid-year, the grant process for 2024 will start. So that's kind of where we need to find the answers for, you know, what's gonna be paid out of the DOC grant, project income, county general, so we can plan accordingly.
So can we start with the grant process to see?
Yeah, I can reach out to DOC and start getting some answers, or, you know, if county general were to start paying for this, is it possibly, can we replace, you know, insurance with 3 officers or 4 officers, whatever we decide, whatever gets approved.
Because I think that'll work. You go ahead.
Well, I just, my biggest fear with that, and I'm not saying that you should try it, but my biggest fear is that you take the insurance out, put those officers in, and then they'd be like, well, we're not doing that, and then your whole grant amount it gets
Right.
reduced by 300,000.
I understand that.
And then you're left with no insurance and no officers. I would hate for that to happen.
Could I say something about the grant cycle? I know from past experience, usually that doesn't get submitted until like July or so. So we probably won't know from the DOC what money corrections will receive until after you've already made budget decisions for 2024. So often I think this year we didn't know until September or sometime like that. So
What we did,
we're not gonna know.
That's good.
what we did for the grant stuff is when they had their budget workshops, we had what you proposed, but then we changed stuff behind the scenes after we did learn to know what was actual.
Right, but when the council is making that decision on if they're gonna fund stuff out of general or if we're gonna receive these grants, we will not know that when they're making these decisions.
Well, and the closer we get to the building being finished and getting that CR tax money, that's when we can use some of the officers for CNR money.
That's my recommendation for 24. It's just put them in that CNR line item. You know, the just be to get through 23 until we can put them in CNR money in 24.
Because when that building's done, and all we need to make sure is we have bond payments, and then the rest is for correction and rehabilitation.
Yeah, I agree with that, put the CR, you know, 24. So we'll do it until then.
Well, the 2 officers for next year, that's, you got any ideas on that?
And that's what.
I mean, those 2 officers, we're gonna have to look at.
I mean, if they're able to use the CD money, and then your fees are going up, you know, to just, you know, get you through next year, and then you can put all 4. Or, you know, what if a miracle happens and the DOC approves the officers in the grant? Wouldn't that be great?
What is the CD? What amount is the CD?
146. Right under 147, I believe.
So that would get us at least in the, maybe we wouldn't be struggling here in front of New Year's, and
Right.
we're gonna have to probably set some, I think we looked at possibly setting a special meeting up again in 1st of January to get this moving. So, you know, I mean, we wanna work with you, don't get us wrong. I mean, I think all of us are on board with, you know, with this thing, so don't, you know, I mean, it's just to kind of work out the process.
Sure, I understand.
And I appreciate the prosecutor there saying that, you know, that you're at least working. I mean, that gives me a better feeling, you know, that I don't know the grant process, but, you know, we want to, my opinion would be, we want to stay on top of that. If there's anything out there, we want to, and I think the previous, you know, director out there, I mean, I think they did a good job of that. I mean, so, you know, so, you know, I think it's an understanding too, and I think I've got a better understanding by spending that time out there. I think, you know, that you've taken the time to explain it, walk us through it, makes me feel better. It really does, so. I don't know, do you have any other comments, or you wanna?
No, it's just gonna be a continued fight for more officers rather than the 2 that's been approved. You know, we're building a bigger facility, so it's gonna have to be staffed appropriately.
And I think you can all listen to the commissioners' minutes. I mean, you explained it pretty well, and they put their feedback into it, and, you know, it's just, you know, we're faced with, you know, funding this 1 officer that they approved, and we kind of said we would do it as quick as we can, and it's as much as quick as we can. So, and I appreciate everything you do out there, so,
Thanks.
you know. Otherwise, if there's no other questions, I think that's all I have to say tonight. You know, just do what we can here, and on the 29th, you can hire another officer.
Thank you.
And you know, wish you the best to try to find a qualified person, so,
Yeah.
which is not the easiest thing either. Any other public comment? Or?
I missed a lot of it, so I don't really know what was addressed earlier, so, no.
Well, we approved all the funding for the officer that they could hire tomorrow, so, and that's really all we have.
From the corrections, like being spent out of corrections budget?
Yes. It came out of project income.
I'm not sure the board would be pleased with that decision, but that's something we'll address and we're good. So, the board had a different thought when we met last week in special session.
He explained that.
Okay.
So, okay, well, thanks everyone for coming.
Thank you.
No other comments. So we will, then we do all approve that we'll have that special meeting on November 28th at 4:30. The only 2 other things I was going, are we allowed to talk about?
Maybe it's just.
Yeah, it was not advertised as a special meeting, it was advertised as a meeting.
That's what
It's Colton Steel.
The only other thing I'll bring up in this, we discussed that last meeting, that sheriff's sale. for that land adjacent to the jail.
Oh, yeah.
That got pulled off on it, got pulled off, so I wanted to let you know that we won't be funding that or discussing that. And then this, I think I'm pretty sure everybody's, emailed on that sewer project, the phase one, with the design, $1,496,500. So we have to, I'd like for everybody to get some thought about it and look and read that information that you have. It's kind of, and you would talk to the commissioners about it if you get time, because it is a big move. And once we make this move and give them permission to go ahead with this, we're kind of, to me, the ball's going to start rolling, and we're not going to be able to stop it.
We're on the hook.
Right.
Either that or we're gonna put in $2 million and find out we can't do it.
Right. So, I think we need to think about it or talk about it. If anybody's got any questions, directly, I'm gonna speak with her. I told her this morning, I'm gonna call her. I've got some questions on some items, and I want her, I didn't want to ask her in public because it wasn't really my meeting. And then my concern still is, and my concern is, let's say it's an $18 million project. We get loans or grants for half that, so we're not $9 million. And we've got, I thought she said this morning, 230 customers, roughly speaking. So, and plus, all the sewage that comes to Jasper, we have to pay Jasper to treat that. So there's not going to be a lot of money left, because you can't charge a person, I think it says in that preliminary report, like $50 or $49. So it's going to be, how do we service that debt, the $9 million? That's what got me Buffalo. That's what I want to ask her. She kind of, I don't want to be,
There's so many balls up in the air that it just, every time I hear her talk, and I'm like, okay, that was something I thought 6 months ago that sounded more for sure than it does now. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
Well, yeah, and when they pulled that funding, what group was that? I don't know, it was like somewhere within that 2 hours that she said one group wasn't funding like they were before, and I'm like, okay, so now we're gonna have to do that now, and is that gonna be something right away?
The way I understood it was, she didn't know she wasn't sure that it would be a good project. And then the farther they got into it, the more she found out that it was. And like all those places are more and more,
Well, the SRF has ranked us third.
right, out of all the.
And one of the other groups today, she said ranked us first.
Rural development.
I didn't remember. Was it I didn't?
I feel like, if we were to do it, now would be a good time to get more of the loan forgiveness type money, since it's ranked so high.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to wait until a whole bunch of other people are ahead of you.
And she did say that we have told them we either get 50% forgiveness or it's a no-go. So we know that we're in at 9, but I'm kind of like you, and Chad mentioned today, how do you pay that off when you only have this many customers?
See, that's what I say. Can we set up a sewer district? I'm saying tax money. Can we set up a tax thing to have everyone pay for that, or are we gonna take that out of edit funds? Because you gotta service, even if they give us a 30 or 50 year loan, it's still something we gotta pay back.
I'd say you're gonna have to do like our jail, where you're gonna have something backing it.
Yeah, that's.
We had edit backing the jail,
See,
but we don't have a tax for this one.
that's what I said. That's what I can't figure out how we would.
So you're gonna have to put a debt service tax on.
That's kind of what I see too. I don't know how, and I wanted her opinion. That was one question I had. The others is, I don't, there's nothing wrong with doing it, Baker Tilly. She doesn't have Baker Tilly in this money. So we gotta pay another bunch of money to
Well,
get
no.
them to.
Brent was saying in their proposal, you can have that in her proposal, that she takes care of all that and pays Baker Tilly and has them.
But I'm saying that the contract that she's wanting us to sign, or not us, but the commissioners, that's not in there. So I mean, we're gonna, whatever that is, I don't know. But, you know, we are gonna have to pay Baker Tilly then, you know, even if we push it to her, that's one of my questions. She ought to really cover it and put it in the grant or her costs, because, you know, just so we get reimbursed for it in the big picture of things. You know, that's why I really don't wanna handle it separately, because we'll have to pay that probably out of edit or something then.
I think, you know, thinking of it the other way, if we don't do it, what then? What about the people in Hazelville that don't have sanitary sewer, they're gonna get condemned homes?
The other part is Jasper's part, and she said Jasper's north side facility is already under functioning.
Yeah.
So I'm like, are they red flagged like we are? I mean, Hazel being red flagged by IDM, because Jasper's gonna look at a big amount of money too. And that meeting, like you said, you sat in, but when I read about it, then I thought, ooh, they seem kinda.
But they're not on the same page. You know, she wanted a lift station, you know, whatever she called, fourplex with a lift station to go from the north side all the way to the sewage plant that's existing. They don't want to do that because they don't want to tear every street up in Jasper to get down there. So the other alternative was this package deal, which she's got it, package thing, that treatment plant that she's got in that 18 million, which is $2 million for this package unit.
So that would just be another treatment plant up on the north
Just a
side.
small pack, they call it package unit, which I don't know that much about, but it would be then, they could service their customers and the, you know, the 320 customers that may go into that. And it's probably got capacity naturally, but you know, that's the cheaper way up. And then the other one person in the meeting wanted, the sewage person, the superintendent, he wants to build a new plant, which is, you know, say 30 to 40 million probably to build a new sewage plant out there. But, you know, they don't have a funding source either. So, I mean, how would you pay them, you know? So it all goes back to Jasper, but, you know, you're right. You know, they said that Jasper has to do something out there. You know, they have to, but, so but, you know, does this all tie in? And that meeting is on the 28th of November at the city again. And they're supposed to have like they said this morning, they're supposed to have an engineer picked and which direction they're gonna go with the treatment of that sewage. So, you know, a lot of balls in the air, you know, and
It's scary.
Probably.
I'm like, oh my God. Well, that poor Adrian had to sit through another talk of sewage.
Flirty.
No, I had her here first, but she stayed a little bit. I put her on the agenda first this morning.
she wanted to hear it.
I mean, would like the Toca Regional Sewer District be it like somewhere that a place we could talk to like allay some of the fears, because they did it. I mean, they did a whole plant and the customers and a whole ball of wax. I mean, it's not like this is something new that's happened. You know, we've got somebody right here in the county that's already been through this, and how are they managing their bond?
It's a good point. It's
Well, they got a loan from the county, but they've paid that off.
I mean, so they're making money. I mean, something's happening.
And they did pay it off a little early.
I mean, it was probably part of their matching, whatever their matching funds needed to be for some grant they got.
That was before my time. I just know they made payments.
That would be an assumption.
They have to have more customers putting into that to be able to pay that much back out. Like, was it 260? Was that the number of customers she said?
I thought that's what she
Something
said,
in
something
there.
like that this morning.
How is that gonna-
It's
How is that gonna pay for not only the treatment to Jasper, that fee that we have there, plus the 9 million that we have to pay back?
Right.
I don't see that.
See,
There
that's what
has
I
to be
said.
some other, like you said, there has to be some other funding source or something like that we.
So that's,
Unless a
Most
lot
of
more
the
people
matches
get funded.
2%.
no, it could be, they could do dismiss the whole part of it, the whole thing.
Right, well, I mean,
Yeah.
she mentioned that place in Kentucky, but I mean, they didn't pay anything,
Wasn't that because of,
some other.
yeah, something else that it doesn't sound like that's gonna be happening in Indiana. But
Well,
But it
and she did say the SRF in Indiana will not give a promise until after the start of the loan process. And
So
in
not until they're
Kentucky,
locked
Ohio,
into-
they do, they let you know, and Indiana, they don't. So you've gotta be into your loan process before they even say
What they're gonna do.
what they're gonna promise to do.
I mean, I can't see how.
But they did encourage, she said they did encourage us to move forward, so.
But then how can she say that they would not proceed without at least a 50% if they're not gonna tell them how much percent they're gonna give until we start the whole process? You know what I'm saying?
I think what they're saying.
How is she gonna know that they're gonna give at least 50%?
She won't know, she just said it won't be a
Don't do it.
feasible project.
But then didn't she also say they won't proceed if it's not,
They won't proceed.
We won't proceed.
we won't proceed, but wouldn't,
No, yeah, we couldn't afford to do it.
then we're not gonna know until we're already too far into it.
That's what I'm getting at. You know, we gotta spend all this money up
That's what-
front.
Chad made the comment, we could be $2 million in this and then not go.
Yeah.
It seemed to me that she works really close with those people in those offices, and she kind of has like a pulse of what they're thinking and what they're gonna do. You know, she's done enough of these projects, it seems that,
She said that same thing this morning again. She feels good about it. I mean, you know, since we're number 3 and number 1, and
right, she sounded really excited, like more excited than she has in a lot of projects about this one, so I'm like, that's good.
I just wanna have a better understanding how, you know, even if things would go good and they pay 50%, how did we pay the other 50%? You know, if it's I mean, they talk about a 2% interest rate, you know, I mean, some of them 50 years, you know, but I mean, you still gotta pay it off. It doesn't pay itself.
Let us know what you find out.
Well, that's one question, but if anybody's else has got it, and you're welcome to reach out yourself to her, she's, you know. So I just wanted to bring that up, because she wants a decision here about it 21st or whatever.
I think she's gonna have the contract or agreement at the 21st meeting, but then if Jasper would say no go, then they would stop.
Yeah.
There's a clause in there.
They wouldn't charge us anything if we don't have any place to bring this sewage.
So,
So,
didn't she say Jasper's having their meeting on the 28th?
Yes.
right. So we won't know until, I mean, we'd have to, that's what she's saying, look, they approved the contract.
But there's a clause in there that says if they're a no-go, then it stops.
And my other question to her is, you know, that the other study we did, the 69,500, I think it was the last one, she wanted us to take that out of the general fund or whatever.
We did take it out of the general fund because if they reimburse it with a grant, you can't use ARPA money. You can't match a grant to a grant.
See, and that's that's my question. So we pay $1.5 million for them this next.
It's our ARPA money. It'd be gone.
And, you know, that's what I say, they won't match it, right?
No.
That's what.
Well, Brent, that's why Brent, when he talked to her, he and I talked, he kind of wanted her to split some costs, so some comes here and some comes there, so they can reimburse this, but not this. Because our ARPA money, if we don't spend it if we don't have it incurred by 2024, it's gonna go back.
Right.
Because we have to have it in, the money incurred to spend it out by 26.
And maybe, you know, again, with, you know, I don't want to speak for the health group, but you know, that is money that we could both use, the city and the county, to do this. You know, they could use some of it to do their part of it, and we need to use the part to do
The problem with the help fund is right now, that SIP won't be finished, the strategic investment plan won't be finished until June or July. This has got to start now.
So that's what makes us think we almost got to get the ball rolling, in my opinion. That I like to have a better feeling about a few things before we do it.
So the $1.5 million, okay, so whatever the contract is. So you're saying that the SRF won't pay us back for that if it's paid out of,
Well, you don't really want to pay it back for for the ARPA money, because what are we gonna do with it then? By the time they give it back, the ARPA money will have to have been done.
Yeah, I was hoping we could use it for a match. You know what I'm saying? You know, not necessarily pay us back, it would just be a match. It would, you know, that's our part of it, the state's gonna match it. But you're, you know, I'm with the understanding they won't match any ARPA funds.
I don't think you want them to match your ARPA money.
So isn't a match just, you put up this much, we get this much, or am I thinking this wrong? See, that's why I couldn't say, well, the 69.5, if we used ARPA funds and we can get reimbursed for our.
Then it goes
match.
back into the ARPA fund, and if it's not spent out by 24, we give it back to the federal government. But you really don't match, you don't use grant funds as a match to get money back, reimbursed. Because Brent was thinking if we use this $1.5 million, and then the rest of it we take from something else, then they'd match that, or they get reimbursed that part, not the ARPA part.
Right, I mean, that's what I'm thinking, can we not pay the contract out of a different fund so that it does get reimbursed? It's just a wash,
Right.
and then use the ARPA for something else. $1.5 million.
Well, the ARPA committee's already said to use this it's not quite 1.5, it's more, it's almost closer to 1.6.
It's 1.6, something, I don't know, it's 1.6.
Yeah, I guess in my mind, I was hoping that would go more to the actual project and not the.
Preliminary
Design.
engineering and
Engineering and
design,
all
and which that could be for the next, I mean, if the help comes out and says, let's do sewer, that would all go pay that project.
I mean, it would be just great if, you know, if SRF is gonna reimburse us all that we put into the planning and the engineering and all that. It'd be great if that was just a wash.
Well, if you guys want me to, I'm already doing an additional for the 28th. If you want me to put this 1.5 somewhere else, we could wait and do that.
I think it was recommended that we use ARPA. That's what she had said, isn't it? That's another good question.
Well, Brent was concerned because she wanted to get this agreement signed, and we have to have money in place before we could sign, and that was what we had in place.
So were you advertising?
It's already, ARPA's already,
Oh, that's right. You don't have to.
it's already all been advertised for ARPA use.
I think it's a sewer project, I guess.
And the ARPA money is for infrastructure, which is sewer, broadband.
But you know, when you look, am I wrong thinking that when you look at this big picture of $18 million being a bunch of it in construction, she's got a breakdown. But, you know, does it matter if they reimburse us for construction or design? It really doesn't matter, does it? So you still got to spend that money.
But the design won't get reimbursed.
I think it
No,
will.
She said it
Okay.
would, it would get reimbursed at 50% or whatever.
Okay. Even if we use ARPA.
I'm so confused at it, I'm
I don't
telling
think
you.
so.
Right, I didn't think it
I
was.
didn't
if we
think
did
it was
ARPA. I thought-
ARPA, that's why.
But I guess my thinking is the cost is up here and we only got this much ARPA funds. So we could use the reimbursement to cover the construction and all that up here. You know, and then that doesn't have a time limit on it. Well, you know, we've got to get it done, but I mean,
See, I think-
somehow we got to spend
I
that
think
ARPA money too.
I think the construction is bonded, that's the bond, you know, that's not the reimbursable stuff. It's, the reimbursables was all the preliminaries, the work that her company's doing.
See, I didn't take it that way. I
With the
thought
planning
it's
and all.
when she says it, I should have brought that along. But, you know, she breaks it down as 18 million.
Mhm.
And whatever it is, they would pay up to 9 million of it possibly if it was reimbursable. Or they would forgive it. You know, some of it's forgiven.
I thought that was the construction cost, I thought that was only the construction.
I don't remember.
We'd have to ask her. And I can ask her, put a little email together.
Have her come in.
No,
Okay.
That's
Let's
not to
see.
keep costs
Other
in
28.
Western.
But just that, to just talk about that part. Like how this funding
I think we
works.
should limit her on time.
She's tough because she's tough. She likes to explain everything, so.
No more than 20 minutes.
We can put it on speakerphone. But
I think it's gonna take a little bit longer, about 20 minutes to figure this out.
Well, I think that's the biggest concern. I think she's probably excellent at designing and engineering. But the funding, I think we need another avenue to say, break it down, this is it.
you see, we almost need to me, we almost need like a Baker Tilly type gun that tells
That's
us.
not, I said another avenue because it's not coming in.
Right.
So what happens if they decide they need to do their sewer somewhere else? I mean, then we still haven't paid off the bond.
But we'd have to get another one.
But this
Still
isn't
will-
finished. This regional sewer district's gonna have
Just add to it,
multiples.
Just a multiple revolving,
Right, right.
like a line of credit almost that we just.
And it's gotta get bigger if we're gonna fund it,
Right.
I think.
Because your structure, your structure of setting up your board and this, repairs.
Is as you keep continuing
Right.
growing.
Because that's the next phase, is you're gonna have office staff to run this utility.
Yeah, she said initially she wants a county office to run it, start off with.
You think you need 4 correction officers, we're gonna need more people just to run a sewer district.
I mean, the good part is that there won't have to be a, paid director and, all the, like, the treatments, what they say, we're gonna be a large use customer, and you just pay your fee.
Pay your fee to Jasper, and that's it. The only thing we got responsibility is for all the lines
No.
and the pumps.
Our stuff feeds into Jasper. Jasper charges for what came.
Right.
We have to bill the customers.
Right, the customers get billed, but we would be a large use customer.
Right.
We would pay
Right.
Jasper.
We need to recoup our cost to pay our bill.
So, you're right.
But I mean, if the rate is the same as if we have a bunch of staff, like Patoka Lake, then that's where you can, make some pay on your payments up early on. Because you don't have that much support staff.
I thought everyone was forwarded on the information she sent out, about Jasper. Did you guys get those minutes? Or?
She's supposed to start sending everybody
I thought
everything
she
every
did,
month.
because she asked me to make sure everybody had the right email. So I don't know, that's all I ask, if you look at it, and get any questions, because I think where that also is here, she's saying that if we don't move around, we're gonna miss the deadline. We're gonna miss the funding for this second phase, we gotta go into the next phase, and,
Are we surprised that people from Hayesville aren't here to kind of help push that along or
well,
encourage
they
us?
got a public hearing, coming up here on the 21st.
The public hearing is on the 21st at 9 a.m. in the commissioner room. We set aside an hour.
Chad said he's had 4 or 5 calls, plus he's had people.
We are getting people coming into the office asking questions.
So they'll be here.
21st
9 a.m.
So it's,
And since we sent out letters to individual landowners, I think we're gonna get a turnout.
it's not it's just something we have to think of as far as financing. I mean, they're gonna, the majority of them are gonna want us to move on with it because it's gonna help them. They talked about the E. coli and stuff in that area up there in White River, and that's, and that's gonna help us in our funding, definitely, because they wanna stop it just like we want it stopped. So, I don't know, that's all I really had. So anybody,
Well, not to open a can of worms, so the employees that were here from community corrections, are they getting paid or comp time, or what's the situation? I just,
I brought, when I heard possibly they were originally, I said something to Lloyd and Chuck about that. I don't think that's proper. That they weren't asked to come here.
yeah,
He was asked to come.
Wyatt was here, but
So, if they want to come on their own free time, I mean, that's what I told him. Now,
Were they on there all the time? Or was that,
no, I mean, if they were working,
yeah,
you mean,
were they on county time or did they?
You have to ask him, I don't know.
that,
Till they turn in a timesheet, I can't tell you.
so are you getting that they shouldn't be paid? I mean, are they,
Well, it doesn't seem like, I guess I need more details. I don't know how to make a decision here, but if they're done with work at 4 o'clock and they came here for a meeting at 4:30 and they expect them to get more comp time or pay or whatever, that doesn't seem right to me. We've asked Wyatt to be here and the support, I mean, you can support it, but I don't think you should get compensated for that. It doesn't seem as though. Now, they can change their mind and we'll all be glad to hear that, but I don't know.
like I said, I mentioned it to him, so. I didn't think it was fair to the taxpayers.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I'm still concerned about the comp time. If they still got that going and it's out of control.
We paid it out this week's payroll, that's all I can tell you.
you paid it out, but that's the ones we're
It's
gonna
being
talk.
paid out on this week's payroll.
So future comp time,
Because if somebody's called and they need to go out at 11 o'clock because of somebody's coming from the state camp or something and they gotta be there, then they should adjust their hours the next day. They were there for 2 hours, then you work it out, that you don't come in until 10 o'clock or whatever it is. That building up of that comp time to me is just another gig. And just, and just that whole attitude of, well, the advisory council may not be happy with that. Well, the advisory council in their position should have had Plan B way back when they found out. On that budget day in August, when Megan said, they're not paying this, they're paying the amount that they paid the year before. That's when the advisory council should have put it together and said, this is what we need to do, gang. So to cry a couple of months later, I'm like, well,
Well, I mean, I see what they're saying, but that doesn't make a pool of funds magically available on our side. We just can't wave a wand and say, okay, poof, we've got enough
Well, and
more.
I think that's the biggest frustration. People look at me all the time and say, well, just make county general do it. I can't snap my fingers and make county general have more money.
Right, that's a finite amount of.
We are levy limited. We cannot just raise, and people say, oh, just raise the taxes. You can't. We're at that
Right.
cap. We cannot go higher than our cap.
and we
I mean, I
said,
just think this is the next best solution, that they can use their funds out of their project income, get us through 23, and then they can,
Thank God they have it.
right, put it in CNR.
But they don't get all the money. They don't get all that extra money. That's gotta be, there needs to be a plan established.
The CNR tax?
Yeah, I mean, they don't, community corrections.
Oh, no,
doesn't
the
get-
jail will have to get some of that as
Yeah,
well.
But we have mental health and some other things. There's gotta be some plans established and see where that goes. I mean, I just wanna make sure that they don't feel like, oh, okay, now we're ready for our money. That's not how it's gonna happen. I mean, I don't want them missing.
right there should be a nice strategic plan to work on with that. But,
Absolutely.
when you know what the amount is that you sit down, figure on that.
And really, next year, the council needs to start those conversations.
Right.
Because we're getting closer to the CNR tax use.
Alex, you got any comment? You sat in on that. They're talking about the meeting that you were there.
I was, I'm worried, I told them, you guys are supposed to be standalone, they said, yeah, but we don't know why it was ever set up that way, the county needs to be more involved out here, so I need input from you guys on.
Well, I want to make a comment about standalone. They've not been standalone for many years. County does their utilities, county does their maintenance, county does a lot of their health insurance already. They're not standalone. We do all their insurances for their vehicles, we do the insurances for the building. They're not totally self-sufficient.
Well, they've never been, right?
No, I mean,
They've
and
never been
then the council you guys are talking about waived $800,000 of money that they're never gonna get from those, corrections, participants. And then I got people telling me, well, I've been on this board 20 years, and I say, well, how did we get into a situation where we've got $800,000 that we're gonna write off? I said, that bothers me, and I could never steal from the county coffers when I see that mismanagement. And that's what I said, because like I said, I don't know everything, how it works between them and us, I'm learning that, but that was a tough pill to swallow, in my opinion. That's a lot of money. That's what's
Go
running for
after it.
officers for 4 or 5 years. And you'll never get all the money back from those people, I understand that, but I said, let's not write it off. State law could change where we get bite. You can go past 6 years, you can take tax returns and have some more income for this place.
Had they gone after it
When
at the
timeframe,
time and not waited 6 to 10 years to go after it, that's,
that was
the
fine.
problem.
I asked Erin, that girl that was here, I said, are you gonna stay on top of this going forward? And she said she was. So, that was, I mean, I was reading the paper and I seen the Du Bois County Community Corrections have lawsuit against them, or the county, I don't know how it was worded, but I knew it was community corrections. So what in the world was this? Well, then I go to the meeting, I'm like, yeah, this guy, he knew a loophole that we garnished his tax return or took his tax return, and he knew you couldn't do that past 6 years.
and we lost.
We should have done that 3 years ago. So,
I think some of those that have been on there for 20 years.
There's
So-
some changes.
So getting my point, I mean, I don't know what to do with that, but it feels like it needs to be addressed. I mean, we can't sweep it under the rug if we all agree that there should not be compensation or comp time or whatever the setup is. That just seems like they need to explain, in my opinion.
Maybe you need to talk to Wyatt tomorrow or Wednesday.
Okay, any other?
That's just my suggestion, because I don't
Right.
know until we see it
Right.
get turned in.
I mean, because I don't know all of them. I mean, either way, okay. Jenny, I mean, she do comp as well, or
She can accrue comp, yes.
Okay, for being here, but see, that's, so am I wrong by thinking that?
I agree with you.
I agree with you.
Okay.
I just don't
Yeah.
see, when, you know, if you're not asked.
If you're not
You're
compliant,
not the presenter.
yeah, that's my,
I mean, if you wanna come in and support your own time, that's great,
yeah.
but then I don't think the taxpayer should pay for that, that's just not right for me.
I mean, imagine if they came before Mary came last meeting and stayed the entire hour. She,
Right.
hour and 45 minutes, however long she talked. And yeah. It would not be good.
Any other discussions, or anybody?
I move that we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
A second.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, just wanna make sure.
It's always you two.
So does Rob have any error in the receipt? I don't know.